I can see the participants popping in. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Enabling Literacy and Research Innovation through Digital Content today. My name is Sherrie Orzechowski. I'm the Vice President of Academic and Small Business at LexisNexis, and I'll be your host through this session. We're just going to take about 3 minutes to let everyone who has pre-registered to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like most of the participants have actually joined in. I have a little counter that goes up and tells me how many people are joining the room. So I think that we have actually leveled out. So once again, thank you everyone for your time today. I'm truly looking forward to going through this content. It's unfortunate that we don't have a live dialogue session here, but it's something that I'm happy to speak with anyone about offline after we've gone through this content. Some of it can be a little bit provocative or thought-provoking, and I'm always happy to listen to thoughts, ideas, feedback, opinions, whatever you may have. Once again, my name is Sherrie Orzechowski. I'm the Vice President of Academic and Small Business at LexisNexis. And with me in this room, we also have Ginger Cole, who is a Strategic Relationship Manager with LexisNexis for the academic market, and Lynn Smith, whom many of you probably know and work with, and she is our Customer Success Manager at LexisNexis for the academic market. And today we're here to talk to you about enabling literacy and research innovation through digital content. So I know the topic throughout this session is about literacy, but I'm here to probably maybe have a little bit of a different spin on literacy because it is an ever expanding concept. So that being said, we'll just go through and talk about how literacy is being redefined every single day. So literacy today no longer refers exclusively to the ability to read and write. And I think that was probably one of the original definitions of literacy. It is quite frankly become a synonym for almost any skill or competence. So you may hear of computer literacy. I'm computer literate. And today we're going to talk a little bit about research literacy. And before I go any further, if you have any comments, questions, please don't hesitate. I think that there are 2 modules that you have available. One says chat, one says Q&A. I'm not sure. We could try the Q&A, but if you drop something in the chat, I also have a moderator who is checking that for us and will bring up any questions that you might have. And I'm happy to address them at any point in time. And of course, we'll have time at the end for that as well. So what I'd like to talk about today as it relates to research literacy and the impact on literacy overall is the emergence of artificial intelligence. AI, for me, at least for the last 10 years, has been something that I always had kind of on my buzzword bingo, if you've never heard of that, but you go to conferences or sessions and training, and everyone cavalierly throws out the term AI. Up until 2 years ago, AI was really more of machine learning, and I had yet to actually see true AI technology. But that all changed in November of 2022. So today's students are growing up in an increasingly automated world, and never more so than with the emergence of AI. And I like to think about when I was in college, I didn't have any of these digital resources. I was literally at the library reading books and encyclopedias and doing my own research. There was barely a Google. I won't say I didn't have it, but actually it was not the mainstream. I think I even used search browsers like Ask Jeeves, if we're talking about how old I am at this stage in the game. And I think it was my senior year in college when they finally issued me a school email address, which I never really even got a chance to take advantage of. But fast forward to 2024, and Best Colleges has polled that 50% 56% of college students have used AI on assignments or exams. So before the introduction of ChatGPT, there was this look that I don't really have the answer, so I'm going to go find the correct one. And now that we have ChatGPT, it's no longer I'm going to find the correct one. It's now a statement of I don't have the answer, give me the answer. And so there's really been a shift or a transition in terms of that mindset of the typical college student today. I also recall just recently that I had a conversation with a librarian that shared with me feedback and probably took about 5 minutes to explain how Google technology has ruined academic research. And I did not dare ask back, what are your thoughts on AI and ChatGPT? Um, didn't want to cause a heart attack in that scenario. So let's talk about, what this real automation and what real AI technology and not just machine learning has done for this industry in particular. So the question is, can you believe it's been less than 2 years? ChatGPT was released at the end of 2022. And so if we look at this chart on the right, it's really a graph that shows how long it took these various technologies to reach 100 million users. Starting with Spotify, it took 11 years to reach 100 million users. Netflix took 10 years. Airbnb took 8 years. Twitter, also now known as X, took 5 years to reach 100 million users. You have Facebook, 4.5 years, Dropbox, 4 years. WhatsApp took 3.5 years. Instagram, 2.5 years to reach 100 million users. And what we thought was insurpassable was TikTok, 9 months, less than a year to reach 100 million users. But then lo and behold, we have ChatGPT, and it took 2 months to reach 100 million users. And I confess, I was one of those 100 million users because as soon as I heard about it, I was on it and I wanted to know what it was all about. Only because for 10 years, I've heard that AI this, AI that, very cavalierly, AI this, AI that. And it was never truly AI. And so here we are today in 2024, or at least the end of 2022, where I can say, oh my God, my mind is blown. And quite frankly, it's beyond scary what it's capable of doing. So now, as we fast forward to the college student today, in less than 2 years after the emergence of ChatGPT, students can now use AI for content creation, analysis, summarization, extraction, predictions, voice presentations, video presentations, coding, and so much more. And it's only really just getting started. And so, how are we preparing to combat that when it comes to enforcing, teaching, educating on research literacy? And so, some of the pitfalls. What does ChatGPT have access to? Pretty much everything. And so it truly does come down to the discipline of understanding research and especially source citation. And what would a world look like without reliable sources? I've just picked a couple here as examples. One that's very true and near and dear to my heart is The Onion, the leader and satirical news. And this is how they advertise themselves, America's finest news source. But are we truly there where a ChatGPT or any AI technology can access this type of information and know that, maybe there are parts or opinions of this that are not actually accurate and more to be taken in jest? There was also a source very controversial, the Denver Guardian, which truly at this point doesn't exist, but it was certainly cited. And it was incited to specifically promote fake news, in addition to anything that ends with .co. So out there, you'll see news sources or alleged news sources like abcnews.com.co. or cbsnews.com.co. And that .co is the true indicator that this is a fake news website. So when we've tested out ChatGPT to see what we're getting in terms of the analysis and then the citations, we have easily found that they have cited economic papers that don't actually exist. So this is what we're looking at today in terms of the technology and what those gaps are. So more than ever, the reliability of the content and the sources that we're providing to students to perform their research will help them in the new world of what literacy means to them. So in terms of achieving research literacy, Grinnell College today defines research literacy as a set of interdisciplinary transferable competencies that help individuals determine and diminish knowledge gaps. So we've kind of looked at the stages today of how students approach research. So you usually start with a topic or a thesis. And then, of course, there's a way to record and analyze that research. And then most importantly, there's accessible content and sources for information. But the problem is, what are students gravitating towards today? Google, Wikipedia, ChatGPT? The bottom line is that students will gravitate towards the simplest options. So it's very important for us as librarians and academic researchers to understand the student mindset about utilizing sources and content for research. It's necessary as we head towards an AI-powered future. So there's a lot of education ahead of us in terms of teaching the next generations on what true research actually looks like. So as we look at these stages, if a student is starting a research paper, where literacy is trained and where we can help them is find the sources and content that align to the thesis or the research topic. And then outline the research paper using insights and quotes and actually reading the materials that you're researching. Where students want to skip to, because there's a lot of time and energy and focus in where we believe literacy can be learned or where it is trained, is they want to be able to create a first draft with AI with the understanding that there's some pitfalls and inaccuracies, and they use that to proofread and ultimately create a final draft. And I think we all know what some of the results of that can look like. And it does not lead to a true understanding or even powerful opinions around the thesis that they're writing. So in terms of trying to understand the student mindset and the path to least resistance, we have to ask ourselves, how do we adapt? I think that when AI emerged and when ChatGPT emerged, many schools had that hammer of how are we going to stop this? How are we going to prevent it? And I think that, again, less than 2 years later, ChatGPT and other AI technologies are now an unstoppable force and the new expectation or norm for students. So there is some sort of middle ground that we're battling for today. I'm a big fan of Forbes. I love reading their articles. I know that, in terms of reinventing and redefining things like literacy, Forbes recently had an article that redefined the new Ivies or the new Ivy League colleges. And I'm not sure if many of you had an opportunity to read through that, but a hearty congratulations to Georgia Tech and to Emory University in terms of reaching the new definition of the highest level of academic achievement and prestige overall. So just because things were a certain way, it doesn't mean they'll always be that way, and nor should it. You should not take a namesake or a label and expect it to maintain that status or that label without putting the work into it. And so just like with research, there are things that we need to do in order to accommodate or modify in our own thinking and start thinking about what students truly need. So with this particular article by Forbes, it was called How Academia, Google Scholar, and Predatory Publishers Help Feed Academic Fake News. And it's a very interesting article by Caleb Lederer, an academic entrepreneur. If you have an opportunity to read it, I thought it was very insightful. But he first says that not a day goes by that an academic paper doesn't pass through my inbox that contains at least one claim that the authors attribute to a source that it did not come from. Like, not once a day, not a day goes by. So I thought that was very, very compelling. But of course, he goes a little bit further to find out why. How is this happening? And in speaking with students, their response was academia today places such immense pressure on students and faculty to publish that they simply don't have time to read papers in detail before citing them. And so I think about some of the solutions that even LexisNexis has today, where you could be searching or researching any topic, and probably even more so if you're on a discovery service platform, where you can get tens of thousands of search results. And I can guarantee no one has time to read each and every article. And so, how do you go through this as quickly as possible to make sure that you're aligning or you're grabbing the articles that best support your thesis or your hypothesis? And so, with the emergence of AI, what you'll see are things like content summarizations, something that we've also recently adopted and are actually launching in July with the upgrade of the new Nexis Uni that we have coming out later, like I said, in July, that we're pretty excited about because it's all based on feedback on how to accelerate learning and how to help students prepare and to use the content and the sources that are meaningful as opposed to a Google Scholar or just a plain old Google or and definitely a Chat GPT for getting types of generic responses or perhaps satirical opinions, or even downright fake news. So in terms of the future of research literacy, these are the steps that I think that librarians and academia overall will need to adopt in terms of digital tools and content that will bring about faster insights and driven by AI technologies without having them, prepare or write the entire paper for the student. So there's a lot of content out there, and it's about vetting the quality content and making sure that we're not grabbing from so many sources out there, and especially even compounded to make it worse through social media. So as we focus on where literacy is trained, looking at the tools for research within libraries, the tools that you're investing in to keep pace with the likes of ChatGPT, but also underlining why these tools are important and are better and more designed for academic research. You have to be a little bit competitive. So having things like natural language searching and the appropriate research guidance tools, automated citations, long form content summarization, because you don't have time to read 10,000 articles. Are there summaries, almost a cliff notes, so that you can get a quick peek at some of these articles to see if they align with what you're trying to accomplish or not, and then move on, because some articles can be very lengthy. First draft capabilities, perhaps an outline format, and most importantly today, visualizations. I can remember many a night where I am plugging, looking for numbers, and I would drop them into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I would have to convert that into a chart or a graph. And again, I don't think that that is the expectation for today's student. So the more that we can automate some of these components, to make it easier for students to stick with the vetted quality content that you're investing on their behalf, the better. So going back to their expectations and how we can meet them, academic research tools are beginning to offer a lot of new and innovative ways to automate some of the research process without completely taking it over. When we worked with our customers on what we wanted to do specifically at LexisNexis to help accelerate learning and research for students, it was a combination of insights into the business world, insights from the librarians themselves. We actually have an academic advisory council, and then just my meetings and speaking with many of the schools in terms of trends and insight that they're looking for. And so what was important to them were a couple of things. Again, going back to the summarization of some of this content, because the search results can be uh, wildly overwhelming. Also, paths to research. So you may have a topic, but how do you follow through on that? And so the thing that I could liken it to is if you've ever shopped on Amazon.com, you may buy something or you may purchase a book. And then what they do is they say people who have purchased this book also purchase this book and this book and this book. And so it's making recommendations on what to do next. And so we've put in some of those paths, and I know other solutions providers are looking at this. It's, what next? I've searched this topic, but are there other topics related to this that may be relevant in helping me to create my paper or write my thesis or work on a particular project? Another view would be the coverage over time. And I have to say, in terms of my experience here at LexisNexis, this is the single number one most requested feature in terms of dialogue for all of the different departments, whether it is based on a university grant, doing a long-term project on X, Y, or Z, right down to individual student projects, but a lot with faculty as well, is they want to see a particular trend. And what I mean by that, as an example, I want to see the impact of the emergence of social media on my search topic over time. Are there spikes in popularity? So this is another new view, and it's a downloadable, exportable chart that you can just pop right in, saving a lot of time and money instead of trying to find data, plugging it into a spreadsheet, creating the chart and graph, copying and pasting that, and putting it into your project or your final outcome. So I see that there's actually a question.
It's actually
And
a
it
comment.
looks like it's just a comment.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So yes, somebody in the audience can actually concur that the idea of using AI for the graphs, the data visualizations, making it something that's easy and exportable so that it accelerates the research and you're grabbing information from the right content sources. Very, very important from many, many, many of the customers that I've spoken with. So thank you for your comment. Oh, there's the other challenge, and that is with declining budgets. How are we doing this more effectively? So librarians more than ever need to heavily vet and actively promote the right resources. And I know many of you do this, and we work with many universities on how to accomplish this and how to roll out for, next semester's new freshman students, or ongoing webinars, or even faculty, or even retraining the librarians so that they know what's new in our solutions and how to promote those with students. But it's the only way to, I guess, so to speak, be competitive against the technologies like ChatGPT. And quite frankly, in this day and age, having an extensive database collection in a discovery service platform is just not going to be enough. So you've seen some of the screenshots of what we've even put in our own technology and what I'm sure other providers are putting into their technology. So, it comes down to, I know many, many universities rely on the discovery services to get that information disseminated or to provide easy access to students. But unless they are able to update it in such a way that resonates with how students are doing research and what research literacy means today, it may not be effective. And the fallback will just be, yeah, I can't really find anything. There's too many search results. I don't know what this means. I'm just going to go ask ChatGPT. So when a student has access to time-saving and insightful research tools with an expansive collection of content and sources, literacy can be trained and research innovations do flourish. But this is absolutely a time where we kind of have to think outside the box on doing things a little bit differently when it comes to educating on what literacy means today. And as I mentioned, navigating those budget restrictions to drive innovation can be a challenge, especially if there's a cut, never mind budgets not taking into consideration price increases year over year and, cost of services that are constantly going up. So with that, I think historically we were charged with looking at all of these different specialty databases, and certain professors need access to certain types of documentation, or there may be one department that has a preference over another. But I think, again, more than ever, we have to be very crafty in terms of vetting the sources that we're providing. So in this day and age, I personally work with a lot of schools to help them navigate through this budget crisis, because you often have various databases for each of these different disciplines. Like you may have a database for court documents and corporate or business information. You may have it for news. You may have another one for global news. You may have another one for historical news. And the list goes on and on and on. And of course, we have, all of the different breakout studies, women's studies, Black history studies. And so it can be very daunting with all of these individual costs that go up and up and up. So a lot of schools have converted and started taking a look more at these interdisciplinary databases or cross-discipline databases, something that will have as much of the content all in one, not only to save money in terms of not having to negotiate 16 different contracts and 16 different prices, but also to enable that path to research. So the more disciplines that you can have in a single content source, it just gives you that trail of breadcrumbs of, hey, you searched on X, have you considered Y and Z? And that's not a technology today that's necessarily baked into all of those discovery platforms out there. So again, it'll be very interesting to see and to watch how they accommodate the new expectations, or to meet the minds of the new, student mindset, if you will, and what they're looking for as they're doing their academic research. So in terms of, again, that trail of breadcrumbs, when you have interdisciplinary sources, again, a medical student may actually need to look up a case relating to medical malpractice, which could then lead them to another article from an academic journal on skin burn treatment, and vice versa. So a law student may need an article on skin burn treatment, which would lead them to a particular docket. So having as many of those sources interconnected so that we can make the recommendations or build out the pathways for accelerating research will help your students become more literate across the board, and using the sources that will ultimately raise the quality of the output that they're doing. We want to encourage that natural curiosity and encourage them to explore through the resources that they have, instead of going to just a single source. finding what they're looking for, it may not be as diverse and varied and having enough opinions or perspective for them to ultimately make, make a conclusion or an outcome. So with that being said, some of the key takeaways here is that literacy is ever evolving and never more so than with the introduction of AI. And so the question and the challenge for us in the future is, teaching literacy to students without compromising the quality and having them truly understand what those differences are. And teaching literacy skills in this age will need to leverage the new innovation, the technology, and the digital research resources that are being provided. So it's very important for us, as I said again, more than ever before, to vet and to explore and to see if some of these tools are more aligned with what your vision or what you think the future for your students is, something that they will more actively embrace. And so, since students will always gravitate towards the easiest option, it's also important for you as librarians and for faculty and staff and for educators to promote the value of the content and the tools that you are providing to students, including the visualizations and trending and content summarization, the natural language search features, and other future features that I'm sure we will see very soon in the future. But it's about the actual promotion and having an opinion of what these tools can do for you. It's almost as if we have to internally sell some of this to the students so that they understand the value that it's going to bring into what they're trying to accomplish. And then last but certainly not least, cross-discipline databases provide broader collections of content and not necessarily high level. It can be very, very deep dive in terms of the content that you're looking for. You may find actually ways to save a lot of money if you can find those databases that cover 6, 7, 12, 14, however many other databases. They may actually be redundant. So not only does it save you money, but it will also save you a lot of time because it's a lot easier renegotiating and executing a single contract than it is to do it 14 times, which can be very time consuming. And that will leave you more time to do your own promotion of the tools that you've selected. But again, it's important to have the broader content set and the tools that will allow them to navigate down the paths of research. So it's no longer a very specific pinpoint. I'm looking for this and I have the one source that I'm looking for. It's about opening the doors to multiple sources, multiple perspectives to enrich the research that they're doing today. And so with that, I thank you once again for attending the session, and I am happy to open it up for any questions. And again, I'll reiterate that I have Ginger Cole, our strategic relationship manager, as well as Lynn Smith here, our customer success manager. Um, Between the three of us, we're happy to address any questions that you may have or comments.
Hi everyone, it's Joy at Galileo. You can type those questions into the chat. You can use the raise your hand feature, or you can use the Q&A feature. We'll give it a few minutes to see if anything additional does come through.
I think we're starting to lose some participants now. So I'm happy to stick around and see if there are any questions. Otherwise, I welcome you to reach out to us directly if you're interested in learning more about what we're seeing with academic research and with our academic customer base, or some of the insights that we're getting from our advisory council. Or if you just want to give your own specific feedback or requests on what you'd like to see in the future or what you think we need in academia, I'm happy to listen to any of your feedback.
Thank you for this presentation today. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. Looks like we got a comment. Oh, thank you, Erin, very much. If you have any time, I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas as well.